Hey everybody, Jordan Ostroff here with Legalese Marketing for our CRM Masterclass on automations and how to get your life back. Sorry for anybody on us running late. As you all know, Facebook continuously rolls out new features and new options, and everybody has a slightly different Facebook. So sometimes when you have something ready to go at 11 o'clock by 1:30, for some reason the stream won't take. But anyway, here we are. And this is what we've got. We're talking about how to use a CRM and how to automate to get your life back. Greg, I'm not seeing the slides. Is it going to switch over? There we go. Awesome. So our game plan here, we are talking about three things. One, what is a CRM? Two, when should you use it? So the different stages, the different things. And three, pro tips and more. We're doing this live for a reason. So as you have questions, go ahead and drop them in. We'll jump over to your questions and go from there. So do not hesitate. We put this together for you all based upon y'all's votes. So let's jump in. What is a CRM? I love this quote. The sole reason we are in business is to make a life less difficult for our clients. What a quote. And really a CRM should be the ultimate thing to do this. So we are talking about a client relationship manager. It's going to store all of our client information. It's going to automate a lot of our processes. It's going to be the backbone of our firm. How often have you had this situation where you call the doctor's office to schedule an appointment and they've got, they take all your information, they've got your insurance information, what you're there for, etc. And then you show up and they hand you that giant stack of files to fill out the exact same information you gave them. And you're sitting there like, well, why did I give you all this stuff over the phone? Why did I re-enter it? Why? I've already been here for years. That's what a CRM solves. It solves that issue of having all the information you need stored in one place in a consistent manner. And so when I say it's the backbone of your firm, everything else you do works off of your CRM. So you've got the different marketing strategies coming off of it. You've got your client relationships coming off of it. You've got intake coming off of it, etc. So that's how you need to look at it. All right, so what are the things that a CRM should do? The best CRMs are going to do pretty much all these things and more. They're going to keep data on your contacts. They're going to automate tasks. They're going to help you with scheduling. They're going to help you with calendaring. They're going to help you with e-sign. Please, dear God, your CRM has to have e-sign. It's 2021. Emails, text, and tracking metrics. So what we're talking about here is not just the information, but the ability to use that information to trigger different tasks. The ability to allow clients or your staff to automatically book in one direction to get those things on the calendar. The ability to e-sign the contract, the invoice, all the things along those lines. The ability to send emails, send text messages, etc. This is what we want out of a good CRM. Oop. All right, here we go. So why do we want to use a CRM? What really is the benefit to you and your firm? It's really about the client experience. It's about the ability to provide that better experience, getting things done more consistently. Tasks or events happen over and over and over again the same way. It's consistent. It gets things done quicker. You and your staff don't have to do it. Your CRM can be working 24 hours a day. It can be sending those automatic emails. It can be sending the reminders, setting those tasks. You don't have to constantly be at it. It gets it done right. You're removing human error from a lot of the stuff. And look, don't get me wrong, there's going to be bugs. It's still software, but those are bugs that you can deal with more consistently because this could run 1,000 times on a document and just have an error once, as opposed to from the human error component of somebody being sick that day, somebody being out, the internet being down, whatever it's going to be along those lines. And really, look, you're going to save money. It's at least going to allow your office to focus more on each client. We're going to talk about some of this from the time savings, but think about all those things that maybe they take 3 minutes, maybe they take 5 minutes, maybe they take 10 minutes, but you're doing them over and over again. And by getting them into the CRM and by automating them, you're going to save all that time. And trust me, it adds up fast. We'll look at that in a little bit. So when we're talking about automation, it's super important to make this distinction about what automation is versus what automation is not. It is a way to streamline your firm. It is the excuse to be more personal. You are freeing up yourself to be more personal with your clients on a one-on-one basis, and you're providing that service better, faster, more consistently, and probably cheaper. What it's not is an excuse to cut corners. This is not a situation where it's like, hey, automation will get us pretty much where we want to be and it'll be fine. It's not a reason to be less personal. You're not sitting here saying, hello, insert first name here, yada, yada, yada. You are customizing all this automation for your ideal client's journey. And it's not a way to do no work. It's going to be a decent amount of work to set these things up. You're going to have to put time and effort to make some tweaks and changes and adjustments as needed, but it's not a way for you to slack off. It's a way for you to truly be better when it comes to us being the go-to best expert attorneys who really need to be there for that deposition, who really need to be there for that trial, who really need to be there for that motion. We automate the rest of it to give us more time to be there, more time to do the research, more time to do the specific things that are unique to each individual case, and more time to help clients have that great experience and accessibility to us or our staff or get their specific questions answered. So when should you use it? Great Bill Gates quote. Automation applied to an inefficient, in this case, law firm, he said, I think business, will magnify the inefficiency. And it's so true. If you are running an inefficient firm, you're going to automate. It's going to be way easier to understand that you're inefficient. So I want us to look at 5 different times where we should use a CRM to make sure we're being efficient. The first one, obviously, tracking leads. So we're going to use the CRM to help us figure out what strategies and which campaigns are getting us the best ROI. We're going to go into these in a little bit of specific detail, but if you've got questions, go ahead and whatever it is. So this is what we're talking about from that full sales process. So from tracking metrics right here, from looking at your leads, we're looking at that initial ad into the landing page, into the contact form. So when it comes to referrals in a CRM, we're going to look at 5 specific examples, and I'll give you guys time for a 6th if anybody else has specific ones. But the first one we're looking at is referrals. So in that CRM, we want to track who sends us cases and which cases those are, because you might have that referral source that sends you 25 leads, but none of them hire, as opposed to another referral source that sends you 3 or 4 leads, but those all hire, and they're big cases. So not just tracking who the case came from, but also tracking the close rate on those across different practice areas, across amounts, across value, whatever it is that you want to do in there. Your CRM should be tracking all of those. And this one, honestly, for the most part, you're just going to have to ask who referred you to us. There are some firms we've worked with where we've set up a way where like they're doing real estate and they've got 10 property managers that send them all their cases. We gave each 10 of those property managers their own specific intake form. So anytime the lead comes in, they know where it's coming from, but that's not going to be juice that's worth its squeeze for most people. So for the most part, you're just going to be asking them when you do that consult, when you have that first conversation, how'd you hear about us? Who referred you over? Something along those lines. And pro tip, send a thank you note to the referral source, please. All right, so next one, ads. When we talk about ads here, we're talking about pay-per-click, we're talking about Facebook ads, we're talking about anything where you are paying for eyeballs on your specific cases. And just because you're running pay-per-click, you might really have 50 or 60 different ads inside of that pay-per-click campaign. So we want to run each ad to its own landing page, or we want to run each ad to its own call rail phone number. We want to do something where we know the exact specific ad. And if we're going to different landing pages, now we've got a different contact form for every one of them that goes into our CRM. So ad A goes to landing page A, goes to contact form A. And now when I am looking at this actual client, I know exactly how they found us. I can track not just the fact that it's pay-per-click, but I can track that it's ad set 1, ad set 12, ad set 15. Because when I'm looking at my numbers later, then I can tell myself, hey, look, ads 3, 5, and 7 got us the most clicks. Ads 2 and 4 got us the most consults, but ad 9 got us the highest close rate. And then you can make the determination of which of those ads are worth running, which are worth tweaking, which are worth putting more money towards. Now, when it comes to social media, you can track every post. You can do what's called UTM codes. You can go into Google, type in UTM code. They'll give you a UTM code generator. It's gobbledygook at the end of it. So www.jordanlawfl.com/gobbledygook Facebook November 19th post on CRM automation, and it will tell us that people got to our website from there. Or we can do different landing pages from the post if we're really doing that call to action about setting a call right there. We can track through the different platforms, and we can track through the different posts. So just like with ads, we weren't concerned just about Google, but we were concerned about each of those. We're not just concerned about social media as a whole. We're concerned about individual posts. We're concerned about individual platforms, etc. So you can drive people to the different landing page. You can drive people to different contact form. You can give them different phone numbers on each ad set, whatever it's going to be. And then you can track that back in a good CRM. All right, we got our next two are going to be email newsletters and SEO. So between referrals, ads, social media, email newsletters, and SEO, if you've got anything else you want us to talk about, now's the time to drop that in the questions for our tracking metrics. So email newsletter, a good CRM is going to allow you to send it through the CRM right in there. So every time you get a new lead, now they're in your CRM, you've got their email address, you can send them these newsletters. It's really, really, really great for email newsletters on anybody who's got a proactive legal need or situations where cases last a long time or there's going to be multiple things. So what I mean by that is for proactive estate planning, great for a newsletter, especially as the law changes. Family law, great for modifications, changes to the case, if alimony changes in your state, whatever it is along those lines. And also like business law, where they can hire you to form the business, they can hire you to write this contract, that contract, overview this, help them with an HR policy, anything where you've got clients hiring you for multiple things, email newsletters are great. Most of you are tracking open rates. I talk to people all the time about it. Hey, I have a 20% open rate on my email. I have a 60%, whatever it is, which is nice, but here's the problem. As we continue to move towards privacy on the user side, we're going to see open rates be less and less helpful. Apple is rolling out or has already rolled out basically masking open rates, so it will not send the information back on if you opened it. So instead, you need to track click-through rates. So click-through rates being in the email, they have clicked something to go somewhere else. So if you're talking about a blog post, put the first line or two in the email, click for more, and then have that drive them to the website. If you've got the YouTube video, pull the 10-second snippet, click for the rest, have them go over there. Whatever it's going to be in your newsletter, you want to track that click-through rate because that's how you're going to get a real information as to what people did with your newsletter. Either they didn't read it, they deleted it, they unsubscribed, or they read all of it or some of it or part of it. Especially if you're running multiple different practice areas, get those different calls to action, get those different click-through rates in your email newsletter for the different practice areas. And you may find that one practice area gets a lot more clicks, gets a lot more interest. Or you may find it's a medium. Maybe your clients happen to like watching your videos better than they like reading your blog post or vice versa. And you can track that information right in your CRM when you've got that great click-through rate. All right, so now SEO, search engine optimization, showing up on Google. You want to look at every website page. So you want to try to track those keyword results. You're not necessarily going to know exactly they Googled, personal injury attorney in Orlando and found you on this page. But you can put a different contact form on every page. You can put a different call rail number on every page. If you're writing those blog posts, you can put the different information on the website on that page, and then still ask your client, do you remember what you Googled to find us? Or Bing, although going on Bing and Google, and binging Google is a top 10 search result. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, think about it from that perspective. You want to try and track all your keywords. You'll get that in Google Analytics, but from your CRM component, you can track which website pages do better, which landing pages do better, which call reel phone numbers do better. Anybody have anything else? We will have questions at the end as well, but if you've got them now, drop them now. All right, I'm going to keep going. I will circle back if anybody has any other ones that they want us to talk about. Closing leads. According to Clio's legal trend report, I believe in 2019, so I'm a little bit behind. I know they just released 2021 or just had ClioCon, so I'll update this. But as of then, 68% of lawyers did not follow up. That means 68% of us did a consult, and that was it. However, pretty much every study I've ever come across talks about 92% of sales come from the 5th touch point or more. So how do we bridge that gap without working a million hours a week? With a CRM. So what do we say in that follow-up? We've got them in the CRM. We've got these automated emails and text messages and other drips. What do we talk about? Here are some examples. These are not an exclusive list. It's not an exhaustive list, but think about it. Why do they need a lawyer? Show them some great reviews. What makes you different? What common questions do they have? The life cycle of a case. What does it look like? What are the stages? What's the timeline? What are the steps? Mistakes people make in their position by not hiring a lawyer, by hiring a cheap lawyer, by hiring the wrong lawyer, why they should hire you. 1.3 million attorneys, 400,000 law firms. Why should they hire yours? Why are you the best fit? And really it boils down to, what does your ideal client need to know? What do they need to know from you to feel comfortable? If you're doing this drip, best practice, I'd make it a little bit different in terms of getting them to a consult. I'd focus more on hiring an attorney quickly, what the benefits are there. And then after that consult to hire, I'd focus more on why it needs to be your firm, why they should hire you, etc. That's my 2 cents. That is not 100% correct across the board, but in a nutshell, that's how I would look at phrasing the 2 different areas of follow-up. But seriously, you got to follow up. And the more you can do it by text and email automatically, the more time you have to actually call that client and answer their specific question and do a second mini consultation with them, whatever it is that makes the most sense for you when it comes to them hiring your firm. So here I got a short little video. So 10 minutes a day, 6 times a day, that's 1 hour. 5 days a week, that's 5 hours a week. 50 weeks a year, that's 250 hours. That means 10 entire days, not 10 business days, 10 entire days. 250 an hour, 250 hours, $63,000. So if you can automate something and you're not doing it because it just takes 10 minutes, this racks up fast. In a year, you're talking about a $63,000 loss. You're talking about 10 full days wasted. If you look at it from work days, you're looking at 30 work days, an entire month of work wasted because you didn't want to automate something because it only took 10 minutes. The most important things in my perspective for you to automate your contract and your initial invoice, because ultimately every client's going to need those things. And you should have a consistent ideal client who's getting a relatively consistent contract and a consistent invoice amount or invoice manner. Maybe some clients it's $500 down, maybe some it's $5,000, but ultimately if you've got LawPay or Gravity Payments or something like that integrated into your CRM, it should be really easy to send that out. So please, please, please get the contract and invoice done first. Get paid, get clients signing up. That gives you the money to invest in help, to invest in hire more people, to invest in your firm, whatever it is along those lines. All right, so onboarding. We track the leads, we close the leads, now we've got new clients. And let's be honest, most of your clients need the exact same thing at the beginning of them hiring your firm. Is there a form that they need to fill out? Do they need to sign additional documents? Are there mandatory disclosure questions you can get them to answer right now? Should they follow you on social media? What do the next steps look like? Who are they going to work with on your team now? Every client is going to go through pretty much the same process. It's really easy for you to automate the onboarding information for them to turn them into a great lead, into a great actual client. And there are many areas of law where it's really, I think, easy to see these things. For family law, if your state has mandatory disclosure, you've always got the same stuff that needs to be disclosed. Start asking for it now automatically. For PI, if they've got to sign HIPAA releases or PIP disclosures or whatever it is along those lines, or criminal defense, waivers of speedy trial, waivers of appearance, have them sign all those things right now in onboarding. You may not want to move that into them signing at the same time they sign a contract, because that may be too many signatures, but everyone's going to have to go through it now. So think about adding those in this part. So we've got them onboarded. Now they are a good client. Now we have to actually do the legal work. And again, all of this dovetails back into the same thing. The more you have a consistent ideal client, the more you have a consistent legal need, the easier all this becomes. So what about your legal work can you automate? I talk about this, the Domino's pizza tracker style updates, and it goes nuts every time, and clients love it. So I run a personal injury practice in Orlando, and we have our, whatever it is, 5 or 6 stages of a PI case. And as the case moves through the stage, the client gets an email, and it's like 6 things across, and it changes color as we go to those stages. I crap you not, I asked for the Domino style pizza tracker for a PI case. Clients love it. Why? Because they have no idea what the next step is. And now they know where we were, they know where we're going, and they know where we are as we move across those things. So for PI, we're requesting medical records a bunch. So when we're in the treatment phase, we automate those tasks. For estate planning, you're drafting documents. So let the client know and have a form they can fill out, or your staff can fill out with other questions. For criminal law, maybe you're demanding discovery, maybe you're setting depositions. You're doing this on pretty much all the cases. Automate at least the tasks for you to review it. In the state of Florida, the state has 15 days to turn over discovery once it's demanded. So set an automation 15 days after the case hires you or the demand for discovery is submitted for you to check and see if it's there. And then if it's not, you can let your system know to ask the next thing, which is setting, a motion to produce or whatever it is along those lines. Automate your workflows, automate your policies and procedures, even if it's just the task. Even if there's 15 things you have to do that you can't figure out how to get the computer to do, at least automate the setting of all of those tasks. That way it won't fall through the cracks. And then as you start building a better and better CRM, you can start automating parts of those tasks as it comes up. But at least you've got that checklist over and over and over again to make sure all your cases are handled correctly. All right, alumni clients. Totally stole Stacey Brown Randall's line. So once the case is over, they become alumni clients. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's a great way to look at it, because if you're anything like me, your school calls you all the time asking for money, even though I haven't taken any classes in, at this point, 10 years. But hey, I'm an alumni, so they need to keep hitting me up. For most of us, we need to have the same concept with our clients. There will certainly be circumstances where we're not going to want to stay in touch with clients. Either them, something about the case, we messed something up, we just didn't like working with them, whatever it is. But for the most part, you should be getting a consistent stream of clients that you want to continue to work with, or at least continue to stay in touch with. So what do we do with our alumni clients? What do they need to do immediately? If you are doing closings, do they have to request their homeowner's exemption? Do they have to turn on their utilities at the house? If we're doing, I don't know, estate planning, do they need to go to their bank with these documents to fund them ASAP? What do they have to do now? Then think about when you can check in. When does it make sense? Does it make sense for you to check in a week later, a couple days later, 30 days later, 60 days later? When does it make sense for you to ask them to leave you a review? It's probably not once the case is over, but it's probably pretty close to that time. So think about it. Maybe you're one of the areas of law that makes sense to have a newsletter. Great, we want to start getting them on the newsletter once the case is over. Maybe we want to invite our clients to events. Maybe you do client appreciation dinners, whatever it is along those lines. Maybe you want to remind them about the anniversary of their case. This one, I would be very specific on if that makes sense. If you are an attorney who does adoptions, might be a great thing to remind them about the specific day that the child officially and legally became theirs. If you do criminal defense, it might be nice to remind them about the time they didn't go to prison for life, but it might not be. So really think about those things when it comes to what you're going to do after the case is over. Make it unique, make it make sense for your ideal client. All right, so we're going to get into pro tips here. If you've got any questions, go ahead and drop them. I came across this quote. So automation does not need to be our enemy. I think machines can make life easier for men if men do not let the machines dominate them. Sort of sounds like something from Terminator, but actually it's John F. Kennedy, JFK. So automation, even a thing in the 1950s and 60s, coming from JFK, and it has only gotten more popular and prevalent and more important. So I've got a couple pro tips in here. You want to make all of this automation custom to their case. If you have multiple practice areas, you don't want to send them a great review about the car accident when they're hiring you on a slip and fall, or when they're hiring you on estate planning, or when they're hiring you on real estate. You don't want to talk about how great it was on the criminal defense case. So you want to make it make sense to fit their case. You also want to make sure it makes sense to fit them. If you're doing estate planning, or if you're doing elder law, probably the best example here, you probably don't want to say, are you concerned about losing your house, when it's the kid that you are in contact with to do it for their parents or their aunt or their uncle or their spouse or whatever it's going to be along those lines. So make sure to the extent that you have automated drips and follow up and check-in and onboarding, that it makes sense. You also want to make it custom to their marketing. If they were referred to you by somebody, it would be awesome to include that in your drips. Not everybody is lucky enough to know Jane Doe who referred you over to us. So we'd love it if you left us a review so other people can have a similar experience. It was great meeting you at that webinar. I hope I was able to answer all your questions. If not, go ahead and reply to this email with what hesitations you have, with what questions come up, whatever it is along those lines. Say it in your voice. The way to cheap out on this is to buy some templated crap follow-up or steal somebody else's. That's not going to be your voice. It's not going to be your tone. It's not going to be what you need. So make sure you're making it in your voice for your ideal client, the things they need to know. And then the other really big pro tip here, remarketing. So for criminal law, if your state allows expungements after a certain period of time, set that in the system. Do a whole campaign, 90 days out of the expungement. Estate planning, if it needs to be reviewed every year, every 3 years, every 5 years, build that in your system as some of your follow-up on alumni clients. Set it all up in your CRM and then forget about it, because it'll send you the reminders. It'll send them the emails. It'll allow them to book the review meeting, whatever it's going to be. You are taking that completely off of your plate and out of your mind to give you more time to focus on other things. If you are a high volume criminal defense practice and your state passes a law that allows everybody to get early terminations of probation or parole or whatever it is along those lines, you might have 1,000 clients that are eligible for this. And for you to sit down and do this email to every single one of them is going to be difficult. But in that CRM, you should be able to build an audience, or you should be able to track them by cases that are closed, that were a certain type, something along those lines, and send one email blast or a series of check-ins or something along those lines to have it make sense. If you got any questions, go ahead and drop them. We'll keep going. So here's the beauty of this. We talk about this as CRM automation to get your life back. This is where we are. So for the most part, if you are here, you currently struggle with not having enough time. That is why you're here, is probably a time issue. So you might need to spend some money to get this going. In essence, you are buying back your time. And then you use that time to delegate more tasks, to systematize, to automate. So basically, if you look at the steps going up, you get the system in place, you get the CRM in place, you automate the contract, you automate the invoice, you automate your follow-up, you automate some of the onboarding, and now you track it and tweak it. You see, am I signing up more clients than I was before? If yes, great. If not, make some tweaks to the onboarding. Am I having happier clients at onboarding? Great, keep it going. Am I getting better reviews? Great, keep it going. And now, by taking that off of your plate and automating and systematizing this, you're giving yourself more time back. And so what you can do is you can then invest that time in hiring more people and actually training them. You can invest that time in doing more and more with the CRM. You can invest that time in just having a life. It is up to you. But for the most part, those of you watching this who are concerned about time, you're going to need to buy back some of your time by having somebody get this started. I talk to, 8 to 10 lawyers a week about something involving CRM and automation, and the vast majority of them bought a program and it's sitting there for 6 months and they haven't touched it, and they've been paying, $100 a month or something along those lines. So now they've wasted $500 or $600. And yes, it's going to be well more than that for us. For us to do custom CRM work, we're starting at about 10 grand for a whole intake system. But ultimately, it's going to help them in the long term, especially if you're doing billable hours, especially if you want to spend more time with family, especially if you want to grow, especially if you want to bring people on. You've got to have the system in place, and you're getting more and more time and more ability to really do those specific, nitpicky or unique things, however you want to phrase it, for your firm, for your life. All right. Do we have any other questions? Greg, is there anything that you want to jump in on? You are on mute. All right. So then we're going to leave this feed up for a while. If you've got questions that come up from this, drop them in the feed. I will make sure that we come to this. I will make sure that we get the opportunity to answer those questions for you, and let's connect. You've got the Facebook for Legalese. You've got the Facebook for me. You've got the same thing on LinkedIn. You've got the Instagram stuff. And of course, you've got our Solutions for Lawyers by Lawyers group, which you should be in to get this automation. But seriously, having made so many mistakes with my firm and having lived the life of that 70, 80-hour week, a CRM like we're talking about here is truly what helped me get everything back on track. There were some great conversations with Greg on the marketing side, but the CRM allowed us to actually see the implementation of all these things. It allowed us to actually know that by adding another email here and tweaking this and changing this ad set, we increase the close rate by 2%. We increase the click-through rate by 3%, whatever it is. It allows you to run your entire firm as sort of one long science experiment, which sounds terrible, but is actually the easiest way to grow. Because then you're not sitting there saying, I feel like this helped. I think that this made sense. I'm pretty sure I made money on this, things like that. So get the CRM going, get all this tracked, get everything on board, and of course, get your life back. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. Like I said, if you got more questions, drop them here and we'll make sure to get to them. Otherwise, have a great day, and seriously, get back to having a life.